Yo, I just got a little hustle, got a little work, couple little jobs for the eyes, a little dirt, couple ends for my troubles, couple little perks, never took orders well, self-sufficient little jerk, lining up the sheep and preparing to sink my teeth in, the AKA's the wolf, for a effing reason, insomniac demon, hardly ever sleeping. What's good, everybody? This is the Wolf Words Podcast. My name is Taji Aki, got my co-host Shantae in the building.
Hey y'all.
Just us two today. We'll be joined by our Instagram Live audience. What's up, Instagram Live peoples? We'll be joined by them. If they have any comments, we'll be reading them off. But you know, it's a podcast, so we'll mostly be having this discussion between myself and Shantae. So thank you, podcast listeners, for joining in. I'm gonna read something to you. Tell me what you think about it.
All right.
The people you encounter throughout your life may cause you to become a very different person than who you may have become had you never met them.
I think that's very spot on.
It's something that my mom was writing a book, and that's a little part of a paragraph she was writing, and I found it interesting because I think about that sometimes and what molds people and shapes people to become who they are, as far as like everything from their religious identity, their racial biases, how they treat people, political affiliation, and so many other things. Had they not been raised in a culture that endorses whatever belief system it is, would they still be the same person, right?
Right.
And we place so much emphasis on these things like political affiliation, the color of your skin, how people treat people, and all this kind of stuff. Religion, right? That might be the biggest governing thing of that most people have some form of identification with, that determines how they behave. Right. Well, supposed to.
I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Like would most people in this country be Christian if their families weren't Christian?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't already put before them. And I think that's even on a macro scale what you're talking about. If you take it down to a micro scale, think of like I think these are thoughts that are already out there in society all the time, right? Like I grew up always hearing my mom say that like you are the average of like the 5 closest people close to you. So like choose your friends wisely and stuff like that. But like even down to one person, how one person has shaped your life and how different your life would be if that one person wasn't part of it. And I think sometimes we look at like the close connections to us, which obviously that makes sense. But it doesn't even have to be someone like a spouse or a child or somebody who's very, very close to you.
No, it can be somebody you encounter. Like some of the people that made some of the biggest impacts in my life are just people I encountered, strangers I encountered a day here and there, you know what I mean? Or a teacher or something like that, right? And teachers are very influential, first of all. Like teachers oftentimes spend more time with the children than their own parents do. Shout out to
the teachers.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the teachers, but make sure you're being good leaders for these children. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the most memorable things that have been said to me have been said by professors or teachers who had only been in my life like 2 years or so.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Some of the most memorable conversations were conversations I had with like, strangers, whether riding on a train or, shooting around, playing basketball, whatever the case may be. Some of the most memorable conversations and experiences have come from those and things I actually applied to my life. Because you could pick and choose those things that are impactful to you and carry them through life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But, you're talking about macro and micro scale. If you think of it on, I guess, a macro level, what would you say is the biggest cause of strife and war in the world?
Probably religious differences.
Right. Even if you think of political differences, that's often grounded on some form of religious influence.
Right, right.
They pretend it is, at least. Even in a court of law here, you put your hand on the Bible. There's always some form of religious influence. It governs morality at the end of the day, right?
Yes, not to always talk about slavery and black people, but look at slavery. Slavery was almost supported by quote unquote religion and quote unquote Christians.
Right. It's usually the thing that gets people to do things. To put it simply, right? To put it in layman's term, it's usually the thing that gets people to believe in something enough to do it. Hitler used religion to a degree.
Yeah, that was my first thought was Hitler.
It was a religious, it was a war against a certain religious group.
Right.
Which is confusing because they say race sometimes. Jews are a race, but it's a religion.
Yeah.
Judaism.
Yeah.
Like, our labels are very confusing. You know what I'm saying?
Be careful. Whoopi got
well, there are a people. There are a people.
Right.
Now, I don't want to get it wrong. They, have the Yiddish. I'm not sure if Yiddish is the people from that region. But I don't want to get that wrong. But anyway, but we do know Judaism is a religion. Though.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You can have black Jews or so forth. So to say it's a race is very, confusing because the thing about that is, like, race is not a real thing anyway.
Right.
There's no such real thing. So to make that argument, I know the Whoopi thing, whatever, but it's stupid because to make that argument, you're already basing your argument on something that's not even a real thing.
Exactly.
There's heritage, there's ethnicities, cultures, there's nationalities. There's no race.
Yeah.
Technically. And the more we try to label it, the more it doesn't make sense. I could say I'm African American, you're Bayesian. So what are you?
I'm Bayesian.
You could say you say black, right? African American, is that race? Like, what is that? You can say you black, but there's people who say, "Oh, I'm not black, I'm Puerto Rican or I'm Dominican," but you black. Like, you got the same ancestry I got. You look the same as I do. You know what I'm saying? So, I digress.
I think it's a slippery slope.
I digress. But we identify ourselves by certain labels and stuff, right? And these labels often determine how we treat other people. Let's talk about racism and stuff, right? Everybody's born into this world just a human being. You don't have no religion. You don't have no race, so-called race. You don't have anything. You're just a human being born into this world. All right?
Yeah. So I'm listening.
When do we start forming these ideas? How do we start forming these ideas that make us say, oh, if we look at the worst of what we become racist. I'm better than you. Or I have more money than you. I'm different than you. Like, where do we get these ideas from? As innocent beings coming into this world that have no identity outside of just being creatures called human beings, that we call human beings.
Well, in psychology, that's under the category of, conditioning. Behavioral conditioning. Yeah. We take on the behaviors, the ideals, the thoughts of those that are around us. Nature versus nurture is another one of them. The environment that we're in can kind of shape us, shape our thoughts, our beliefs, kind of sets almost a path for us to follow down.
Yeah, and we're going to do another show on religion at some point in particular, but we put so much emphasis on what we think is right. Like, this is the truth. And it's all mostly based on, I would say all, based on just who we were raised around. And what those people who supposedly know more than us as innocent beings coming into this world, teaching us that this is what this is.
It makes you really think, like, how much of your will is free will? Like, how many decisions did you really make for yourself?
Right. Yep.
How much of your thoughts are your own thoughts?
It's kind of scary, right?
Isn't it? And it kind of takes away I remember someone saying this when I was in high school, and it was something that always kind of stuck with me. They were like, everybody's pushing so hard to be unique, but nothing about any of us is unique when we follow along.
Yep. We're kind of like robots.
Yeah.
Right? We absorb this information, it becomes part of our program.
Hey, Tanya Key, I just want to know one thing, yo. Why all these questions?
Yo, some say I'm too outspoken, tired to be on some other bitch. Cats and shook, scared to quote it, bloggers don't want to publish it. Rather be that than a token, y'all dudes be on some rubbish shit. I'm trying to get that all in the open, on the table before expunging it. MC shunning it, fuck it, either way they ain't touching it. Either way all I want is scholarly pundits discussing it. I'm the hub of the mothership, but don't budge unless I budget it. Take orders from no man, I do what the hell I want.